Alright, cool. The military has become the site of citizenship, the mode by which borders are created, foreigners and Slavs alien are assimilated as citizenship machine that turns out fungible bodies, black, Latino, Asian, Muslim, no one is safe from the politics, disposability, so honey of our content, no institution, capital relationship between the Asian citizens and the military laying boundaries that differentiate between insiders and foreigners, definitions into around the military participation. Not only was military service to sobriety citizenship, individuals who fought for the U.S. proved their worth for citizenship, disturbing large, who were effective members of the political. The U.S. has a history of formal service by aliens in the military. The use of aliens was based on the belief that those willing to serve demonstrated qualities for military service was seen as demonstrating these normative qualities. Citizenship for service created new Americans. The military restricted service among citizens. They were enrolled for menial work and denied positions that gave authority over white servicemen. We are always given false promises, told that we will become full-fledged citizens once we participate in service, propagating the myth of the Asian body. We are told that we are good soldiers, compliant and docile. Yet why are we still foreign? Why are we still otherwise? The political has already been seeded, and the age of Trump is here. White Asians are no less excluded. Even if we try to become American, that title is definitionally non-American. Sally O'Fort. Despite ineligibility to become citizens, selected service classified Chinese and Japanese as aliens eligible for the Japanese Asian men hope join the armed forces in the same enthusiasm with the hope that any service will be a path to accept. They counter-arguments that the inability is so made, which is just so how American Japanese could be the privileged citizenship that Asian men hope to attain range from the plenty of materials to the political symbolic change. Chinese Asians have been barred from citizenship on the ground that Asian American culture remain perennially foreign, and the impact is racial triangulation. Asian Americans are weaponized against other minorities to re-entrench their oppression. Similarly, Asian oppression is masked by status quo politics, which instill psychological violence. U.S. imperialism influenced our epistemology both at home and abroad. The myths that surround the Asian body are fast as how identities are weaponized against each other. Expansion of the military only reifies structures of U.S. imperialism. Our ontology of structures perpetual foreigners who seek to destroy America from within. The perfect examples of the American dream, a minority that has risen from the ashes of savagery. This ontological positioning of the Asian body justifies endless violence against us and other bodies. Thus, the role of the vows to find the best liberation strategy for the oppression. Line 14. Views of Asian Americans are self-contradicting. We are mono-white, we have the American story. We are practiced foreigners, never quite American. We are supposed to be submissive while they fear the yellow peril. They suppress ourselves, government, liberal tribes, but not liberal. There are two systems of white supremacy. First, colonial side of North America, the enslavement and exploitation of black, indigenous, European, and Asian migrants. They created racial hierarchy which Asian Americans navigated. We found ourselves facing down, guns pointed at blacks and American Indians, victims of Jim Crow style legacies, attack and champion as a model minority. The second is expansion of U.S. imperialism in Asia. U.S. imperialism enforced a white race and civilization, reforming Asian barbarism to prevent us from assimilating. And we have already served the building of the railroads, weaponization of our identity, and burning of our ghettos are empirical examples of our service. America was built on the backs of the colonized. Asking whether or not national service should be compulsory is asking the wrong question. The question you should ask yourself is this: what can this country do to service? Line 14. Anti-Asian racism emerged because of labor competition between Asian white workers in the U.S. with an appetite for labor. We're plundering American Indian colonists, exploiting labor companies, hiring Mexicans to work for the lowest wage worker who can give out to separate by wage to provide revolt. The first considered European workers, the second considered of Asian farmers, dislocated by imperialism. Neither of these groups proved often only reaching utilizing this pit form against the last white supremacist politicians. Scapegoat the Chinese, they deflected anger, arguing that economics on cheap kind of favor, giving the unfair advantage. Civilized white Americans should not compete with backwards Oriental secularism. Was the deputization of white workers into vigilante before they ate the state and murdering American Indian economists logically extended against Asians as vigilantes attacked Chinese while Chinatowns burned to the ground. Thousands of Chinese were killed, forced into prostitution, or marched to railroads and driven out along the very tracks they had built. Ideologues justified them by describing Asian workers as undemocratic. Asian Americans were outnumbered. The white supremacists argued that Asians like to give themselves that we were just squatters here, loyal to our homeless. Imperialists argued that Asians had an exotic, decadent, outdated civilization that need to be slammed by Western modernity. The perpetual foreign myth during World War II treated the entire Japanese American community as a ticking suicide bomb and put them in concentration camps. And we affirm analysis of the topic through post-memories. The capture of utopian and apocalyptic future that reconfigures dominant narratives and myths that surround the Asian body manifest themselves in denials of history. Status quo narratives of Asian otherness portray us as the other that has antagonized America. World War II, the Cold War, and now Trump construct the yellow peril as a threat that hides within America's borders. Our memory is a rupturing of this narrative, a refusal to engage in hegemonic politics. Day in 16. Asian American cultural productions and unstable establishments that threaten the fragile inherent from within post-memories are very particularly form of American's connection to his objects of social media through imagined investment and creation. Post-memory characterized the experience of those who grew up dominated by narratives that the deliberate conceptualization applies to the coherent Asian American cultural production. Most post-memory indicated form future memories capture utopian and apocalyptic capitalist futurity. It's one of Asian American reconfigurations of history. Symbolic infrastructure. This economism provides a window into relations whose reproduction not contributed to reproductive of the logic of capital. And the symbolic structural rupturing of the one he sees a reclamation of our discursive agency, forcing confrontation with our deviant modes of engagement is natural refusal of a transformative American narrative. What is a rewriting history and insertion of the normative Asian experience, the creation of new epistemologies through our performativity remakes the Asian body constitutive to America policy, making it will always feel for the Asian body. If we refuse to engage in Asian rhetoric and history, the app is a prerequisite to their framework of engagement. Now, young way. Effective use of symbolic reasons face-to-face where they can resist injustice and be asserted to shares of agencies performed enforcement of material with symbolic concepts. They stabilize balance power dialogue, politics, rhetorical tradition, and representation. Asian American rhetoric is something minority discourse has long been marginalized. Rhetoric becomes an integral part of the same dynamic. American narrative is systematic. The systematic use of symbolic reasons, the use of study and the study of rhetoric exists around the world. Rhetoric challenges the binary discourse that views all of the non-Western as the antithesis of Western American. These unruly borderlands of one of exploration and all-speaking processes creating abdication languages and is socially and politically constructed. Asian American rhetoric serves as an example of how Asian Americans have been using language to bring about changes that affect the audience and they're operating in a space that is Chris talked about the variety of experiences that in terms with the weight of history that would not fit into imaginary for Asian Americans as with others. Language provides a possibility to realize a rhetorical and constructive identity and rewrite oneself into the pages of history and pages of history and culture, and rhetorical space for Asian Americans constructed as both foreign and domestic copies. Asian American rhetorical space is the apparent necessity of defining Asian America against the nation rather than as constructive as other against the domestic space of the U.S. And only our politics is able to manifest a formulation of politics that are accessible to a status quo. Politics only breeds political apathy within our community. Chang and 16. Asian Americans have the lowest rate of political participation, representation, minuscule. The issues that concern Asian Americans are issues that concern a vast number of Americans, but outside any area, so the Asian Americans become homogenized in the political sphere or ignored. Half-heartedly footnoted, we are invisible. Stereotypes are raising the internal diversity of the Asian American experiences. It causes political invisibility. The operating group will always be Asian, never American. This idea that Asian Americans are internal outsiders encourages political apathy. We don't feel connected to our government because it doesn't feel like our government. Legalistic traditions denied Asians their promised rights. We conform to structural expectations for change in whiteness in order forward progression, but are always denied. Liberal strategies of engagement fail for the Asian body. McKinney 12. Long-time recent toward Asian Americans come back to support mass internment and denial based on rights of Japanese American communities who are dangerous. Others legal traditions denied rights to good people primarily on national basis. And Filipino immigrants experience treatment as a racially stigmatized because of the colonial legacy of American rule in the Philippines and active leftist organizing and used by many Americans. Carlos Bulasan wrote, "I am in exile in America. I feel like a criminal running away from a crime I did not commit. And this crime is that I'm a Filipino and American. You should force them to defend their scholarship. Anything else recreates things like political apathy that we critique."
Alright, process.
Yeah.
What does the app do?
I think that the AF rewrites history in this political space and also envisions a future.
What is this political space?
What is? I think that we are all political entities, and that debate is also a political activity.
All right, so the app rewrites history in the context of debate.
No, I think that we insert our type of epistemology as political entities.
All right. Okay, so how do you do that?
Huh?
How do you do that?
The one I see.
The one I see? All right. Okay. Why is your framework a prerequisite to engagement?
Yeah, we've made several accessibility claims, i.e. in the status quo, Asians are always used as perpetual foreigners or apolitical minorities that do not have any stake in politics, when in reality all of these issues concern us and are relevant, yet people on both sides of the political spectrum do not recognize that asymmetry of power relations, when in fact it is important and is an internal link to a lot of other instances of institutional violence or structural violence that occurs in the status quo, which is our July evidence.
Okay, sure. So your argument, your McCann argument is just that like legalistic traditions have denied Asians their rights, correct?
I think that it goes a little bit further than that. It says that whenever we try to meet structural expectations of how we should be citizens or how we should engage with structures of power, they will always fail for us because we are always viewed as perpetual foreigners or some type of antagonism against what is considered to be in American
so
politics.
you read the one I see in this round, and you go to the next round. Have you have you fundamentally changed anything?
I don't think that's the goal of the one you see. If that's what you're asking. We won't make claims about like spillover.
Then what is your solvency?
I think I answered this above. It's a question of how we are as individuals are political entities, i.e. the things we do in any space that we carry ourselves in has implications, right? I can't just say the N-word and expect to get off lightly. Obviously, those type of things have implications and discursive implications. The one you see is an example of that.
Okay, sure. What is the implication of the one I see in that case?
What do you mean? Like an impact to the app or solvency? What are you trying to ask?
What is the implication of the? You say that this has a political implication, but you.
I don't understand. Wait, do you want an impact or do you want the solvency for the app?
No, you are saying that the way that the app solves is through some political implication by reading the one AC. What is that political implication?
Wait, I'm not sure what you're asking. Wait, can you repeat that again?
Okay. How do you create a political implication in the debate space by reading the one AC?
Yeah, that was our method argument. Our post-memory is a reclamation of the type of agents, our discursive agency, i.e. how our identities are constructed. I think that we also make several solvency claims about how these types of reclamations or these type of histories allow an envisioning of a better future, which was our futurity arguments.
Okay, no crap, you already made 2 options. Let me know when you get it.
I'm good.
Everybody else ready? Ready?
Yeah.
Okay. Interpretation is often a proposal to be enacted by law. Words and phrases 96 to express interpretation by resolution legislation to establish by law, and national service is defined as a policy to mandate citizens to serve in the armed forces. Collins Dictionary note 8. National service in the armed forces young people have to do by law. Violation. You don't implement any policy action. You barely even talk about national service. Standards. 1. Limits on top of law because it's law the action prevent anything outside of the topic that kills predictability makes the negative to be uncontestable position that kills negative ground and research strategy 2. Impacts. 8. Practical illustrations requires the states of large cases results in shallow basic argumentation differences to find out theses that disagree with everything to for growth. Argument that anyone can skim a Wikipedia article the process of clash is unique to debate, and B. Procedural fairness is key to effective dialogue. This also turns your argument on why you are a prerequisite. Less people can effectively access the debate space. Galileo 7. Debate is a dialogue. Debate is a dialogue. Creating fairness when one side loses, the other denies a person, or the other desire to be fair takes a man for equality. Fairness is to be heard. Opposition is necessary because sharpens thought, which binds us to a common cause. And 2. Switch on debate. Substantive conversion on debate or heat actually is effective for an agonistic democracy. Drives at 6. Not our Walsh communication and the difference between voices of the question from which even across different microseeds is the beginning to open the conversation to be democratic attitude, the converse antagonism to communicative democracy would show which under procedural rules of fair discussion, agonistic ideals of man, questions about what is worthy of respect or retreating from anything goes relativism and principles to regulate the substance of debate. And 3. Debatability framework maintains equitable dialogism is key to social inclusion. This also turns all of your arguments on why the framework is a prerequisite. Babington 7. We synthesize a large body of the literature dialogue where each individual is able to be co-organized frameworks and enable participants to use powers to achieve free determined outcomes, laws of trust in organizations, and outcomes of monologic versions, and not say that anything goes effective engagement processes can be addressed via dialogic unless practice is sensitive to these issues will be unable to change the reality of social groups. And 4. Engagement, identifying limited point of discussions, key decision making, advocacy still provides room for flexibility and innovation with target the discussion. Steinberg and Freely 8. Debate is settling the differences, so there must be a conflict of everyone's agreement. There is no need for debate as long as it be productive without focusing on predicting requests without focusing review without finding solutions for precise questions. Those are profitable discussions opened up by playing focused on concrete solutions, specific policies that identify points of difference to have debate which plays limits on the decision for the basis of argument should be clearly defined. A general subject is too broad to arguments. Not to say the debate should avoid creative interpretation. Debate is best facilitated by a focus on a particular point of difference. And 5. A topical version is alcohol or offense. You could have used a resolution as the example of a larger structure which you criticize. You could have read an app about Asian adventures, U.S. adventures, and argument prevent aggressive foreign policy ventures would cause necessary securitized violence against Asian people brought in. Solvency deficit to the TVA prove the app is contestable and allows for negative ground. Voters, procedural fairness and voters key to ensuring substantive fairness and participation in the activity. And education voters constitute aspect of the activity. Debate was educational schools would stop funding this. This comes prerequisite to all of your arguments on why the framework outweighs. If we can't be in the activity in the first place, there's no way if we can't be in the activity in the first place, your framework wouldn't you would have no way to implement this. And competing interpretations. 1. Reasonable interpretation which by standard much random and justified thresholds. 2. Competing interpretation that hurts future views are creating consistent or the debaters can be held to in the future. And drop the debater. Drop the argument. One of the 7 people allows them to shift his different position the 1 error which means 7 minutes of one it's the offense knocks off. Frame use the imperialist tyrant is an example of intellectual arrogance that ignores the role of the U.S. as in promoting peace internationally. Hansen 3. We are part of an awful unless we prefer to remember how fragile civilization remains outside of we believe in utopian using assure that our economy and the social system working in autopilot always ensure prerogatives of Western society where the collapse of resources of foreign enemies not to be there was an unreal view of the world beyond our borders. One note, the product of insularity brought by success and intellectual arrogance. We are indulging this unreal hypercriticism. Societies like our own are very rarely overall implode, wanting to the end. Criticism American policy contributes to isolationism and eventually collapse of U.S. primacy. Kagan 98. The anti-hegemony are playing a dangerous game while the international system comes crashing down in the U.S. There's a starting neo-isolationism in America, rumbling about American hegemony with using word off the possibility that too many Americans will forget how important continued American dominance is to preservation of international security and prosperity. And lack of results in stagnates U.S. hegemony and also liberal causes to flourish. Style 06. Being serious or suicidal is where we are internationally. The decision which thinking in the West are the greatest danger. The West has the power to destroy any other danger, but it does not have the Western allies having sheltered from brutal violence over international jungle people and slavery and indulging cosmic illusions and everything is just a part of the world community has been taking action, people are finding opportunity to wax morally superior for you not debating abstract questions much easier than confronting concrete alternatives. And hegemony tells global conflict French 17. Without America making its roles, he guarantees safety the world's leader in virtually global conflict. American humans, he advanced powers hostile to peace. Trump has reaffirmed a commitment to NATO, accelerated fight against ISIS and Russia missile defense to South Korea. exerting more American power by abroad, not less than every more American step back or rebels step forward, general line, Chinese arrest and moving southeast, Russia's military aggression, the American retreat, and bold enemies. No nation can protect power like the U.S. Can protect power like the U.S. Britain, France, and Japan take well over a decade to deploy forces to fraction oversize the international order cannot stand if the U.S. abdicates America's indispensable peace. Anyone who thinks the U.S. can change this kingdom is not incurring an unacceptable risk is not living in the real world. And American hegemony's foundational sound and egalitarian approach, social, economic, and political equality for all. Even if you are right in the legal system and the legal domestic system within America has been bad for Asians, is not a reason that you should paint hegemony as bad. Cupchan 14. The U.S. has adopted constructing an egalitarian socio-economic and business shape hegemony. The U.S. has opted for liberal hegemony rather than empire hegemony, responding to social norms. The autonomy of all people, regardless of their race, ethnicity, or religion, will soon begin to end colonialism worldwide. Goal U.S. leadership brought to fruition. The U.S. has embraced a brand of hegemony with cultural inclusivity, shepherding citizens and active liberation, not inculpation as the civil rights movement advanced at home. Washington became supported the international protection of racial and gender equality. American hegemony has been distinguished by diversity, and it is a question of how we orient ourselves towards the international arena. The alternative is an affirmation of American hegemony in order to preserve international stability. KK96. Lukewarm defense of America's roots will impose Cold War and Cold Wars on the U.S. into a strategic and ideological predominance. The first, the objective of U.S. foreign policy should be reversed to preserve predominance and hegemony. Leader with a preponderant influence over all others in its domain. World nature, world powers welcomely welcome U.S. involvement and prefer America's benevolent hegemony to alternatives instead of having to compete for dominant global influence. The concern of America's allies is that it will withdraw America's failed to notice they've never had it so good. They've never lived in a world war conducive to fundamental interesting liberal order. American hegemony is the only reliable defense against the kind of international order. The goal of American foreign policy is to preserve hegemony far into the future. On case, all of your you fail to all of your arguments depend on the fact that you would you have some sort of political implication within the round about fixing the about inserting your epistemology into the round. But when I ask you across, you literally have no explanation for why you insert your epistemology into the round. And our debatability standard proves that you don't insert your epistemology into the round because you just repeated dogmatism you just repeat dogmatism and you just make this broad claim that racism towards Asians is bad or the way that the legal system is treated Asians is bad, but I can't actually but it's not, there's no stasis point for this debate, which means that I can't debate it, and we're not learning about the intricacies of why this is bad, which means that you don't actually that you reading me 1AC about reading this 1AC doesn't actually have any political it doesn't actually have any political implications within the round. Cross that.
Alright, cool. Ready?
Mm-hmm.
Status key alternative.
Conditional.
Mm-hmm. Alright, cool. So let's start on the framework arguments. What is democracy?
Sure. Democracy is a system in which the people are in control.
People are in control of the government?
No, so like the populace has some say in the government.
Okay, so what do we do when parts of the populace don't have a say in the government?
We would say that is an issue within the democracy and perhaps does not constitute like a flawless democracy, but as opposed to just like rupturing the entire system, we would say that we should probably
wait, so how do we develop things like institutional change when the very people that want institutional change are not included in the discussion? What do we do in that instance?
I'm not sure what you're asking. Like
I don't know how I could be any clearer. How are people that are excluded from things like democracy, how do they participate in those systems in order to have some sort of institutional change? Sure,
we would argue that is not that is not the concept. That is not a full democracy. That's not. So we would just expand to create a full democracy. Like that is.
We would. So you just fiat that we all of a sudden include everybody in systems of power.
I'm not sure what you're referring to.
Okay. I guess that's fine. The hegemony critique. Why does the reading of the 1EC lead to like global conflict?
Sure. Our argument is just that the stance that you take against hegemony is bad because it perpetuates the ideology of like hegemony as
what is
American
the stance
hegemony
of
as bad.
What is the stance of our hegemony arguments?
I mean, what do you mean? Like you.
So is us saying that
wait, it's like imperialist
sorry, it's my process. Is me saying that the U.S. has done some messed up stuff a reason why we cause global conflict?
No, so we don't say that you can't criticize what the U.S. has done. We say that the way that you frame hegemony in the 1AC is an example of like framing the U.S. as this like.
Can you point me to a specific line in the app?
Sure. You like the whole last card.
The whole last card?
Yeah. The McCann card.
So colonialism in the Philippines like how we frame the violence against Filipino people is
no.
bad
So-
for U.S. hegemony and causes global conflict?
No. So it's not how you frame. It's the way that you frame American.
Yeah, what about
it's
it?
the way that
You
frame
literally
American-
said
frame-
it's the entirety of the last card. The last card makes a claim about legal traditions and how colonialism in the
sure.
Philippines was messed up. What about that
Sure.
causes
So
global conflict?
okay, sure. So it's not just like the last card. It's the way that you use the last card to justify like that the U.S. is a horrible actor. That the U.S.
Wait,
is like
this card doesn't even say hegemony in it.
Okay.
What about this card links into your critique?
You like don't need to say the word. We're not linking to like the word hegemony. We're linking to the way that you are linking to the way that you
Okay, sure.
frame U.S. power.
Yeah, I'll start. It's a case, framework, and then this critique argument.
Are you reading anything now?
No new cards. Oh, actually, it'll be framework first, and then the critique.
Okay. Sorry. Can you just repeat it?
Yeah, framework and then critique. And then,
No case.
well, there would be like an overview on the framework that would be like case stuff.
Okay.
All right,
Yeah.
y'all ready? Okay, cool.
The absence of rewriting history in this space that renders status quo racialized politics unintelligible manifests a futurity of radical change the role of the battle for the best liberation strategy for the press because of the way that an influencer of epistemology, Sarah 1AC, Jalana is how straight conceived. The only argument that she reads on the case to me is about how we do not have political implications, but I cannot be clear about how we as individuals are political, we are political entities. I.e., if I say the N-word, obviously it has political implications about how we view things like blackness, which proves our argument about why the 1AC is good, and we access solvency. She's not contested any other parts of the 1AC, which means it's a dissent to both the critique and the framework argument. Our interpretation and rejection of the resolution of bodies of already served. We read unique dissent that indicates the military has become the site by which bodies become disposable. The 1AC is the last act that serves for this country. You should frame this debate around a question of fairness for whom, with women and accessibility, claim the vote out because it proves that their framework in politics will fail and are inherently exclusionary. The acceptable dissent to interpretation first is the paternalism dissent. Framework is just an instantiation of dominant structures that always deem Asian epistemology and discourse as deviant, which means the impact on their education arguments are intrinsically exclusive. That's Jalana evidence. Their framework just assumes that we'll be docile workers that will follow on with whatever they say is normative and try to assimilate this, but just recreate their form of anti-Asian politics. Second is the perpetual foreigner dissent. Policymaking intrinsically fails for Asian bodies. We are always viewed as apolitical modern minorities who have pulled ourselves up by the bootstrap and will go along with anything white people say because we are almost white. Even if there are Asian politicians that doesn't speak to the type of apolitical stance that society has placed on the Asian population. Protests in the case of Peter Liang, we ignore it as both black and white people refuse to acknowledge asymmetry of power relations that exist for us, and also proves our uniqueness that oppression of Asians is not recognized as McCann, and there is that none of their framework justifications speak to the use of post-memories as a mechanism for reuniting history. We see that their politics will inevitably fail in a world where they rely on false accounts of history in order to manifest their politics. I think the critique is a pretty good example of this. Only the 1AC creates those most acknowledged production. Fourth is the escapism dissent. Their model of debate just shirks away from hard discussions in favor of comfortable and predictable discussion. We see that unpredictability is good. It forces them to confront normative assumptions about the way politics structure. Our interpretation encourages coming to the other side of the library. Do the research. Your uncomfortability with our engagement with our arguments just proves that we are disrupting their worldview, and you should also evaluate this reasonability. We are also directionally topical and have topical issues, which means they don't get access to limits. They definitely have prep on it, and these are independent reasons to vote for. They should be forced to defend their interpretation and their scholarship. That was the 1AC argument. Any other interpretation just breeds the type of political apathy that we criticize, and there's no topical version of our apathy. The topical version of the apathy she reads is extremely vague, which means she's holding to a high bar. When we've read unique stuff in the 1AC that says that the military becomes a site where bodies being disposable, it doesn't matter. We seek to decrease things like adventurism. It just recreates the type of politics of disposability that we criticize in the 1AC, and fiat is illusory. None of their impacts happen in the real world, and only the amp access to solvency to the harms we've identified, which also applies to the hegemony critique arguments. Obviously, the reading of the 1AC doesn't lead to things like global conflict and cross. It's pretty embarrassing on this issue. All the dissets that we read also apply to their switch side debate arguments, and the library dissent is probably pretty convincing on this issue. And we also get to weigh our athletes debates about competing models of debate. Our athletes are interpretation is a question of the type of politics that we engage in this space. Now the critique. First, you should just vote them down. This is just bad scholarship there. Argument about how the discourse of the Wayne master over hegemony is just messed up. I mean, just because the U.S. has done some good things abroad, i.e., stopping things like war, that doesn't mean that you can just paper over the type of oppression that marginalized bodies experience in the status quo, which is literally what the critique says. It's also a link of omission across. It's pretty clear that she cannot isolate a single line in the app that creates the type of framing that she advocates for. We will also impact her. These hegemony arguments. First, hegemony just recreates the type of militarized prostitution that exists in the past. I think our militarism argument, or the military disposability argument, is particularly good on this issue. When the U.S. just expands internationally, just recreates things like prostitution rings in foreign countries in order to satisfy American GIs, which we impact their hegemony argument. They just recreate the type of politics of militarized expansion that recreates in the one you see. Crossplay fiat is illusory. The critiques impacts don't happen.
Yeah, I have format. Why is framework paternal?
We say that the ideology behind telling us what is good debate and what is bad debate is exactly the type of discourse that excludes Asians in civil society.
What's the escapism Dasad?
We say that your model of debate just shirks away from hard discussions, i.e., if we read a critique on the negative, you would just read Extinction Outweighs, which doesn't discuss the politics of whatever critique I'm reading.
Okay, the order is critique,
Change framework. Okay, cool. Are there any new cards?
Is everybody ready?
Yeah.
The critique was conditional. We're not going for it. You can take it for us on framework. You said I can see your role. You can say that I can see your role about, but however, you can see that T is a prior question to your role about doesn't matter because we can't have a discussion centered on your role about unless you defend some sort of policy implementation and fairness. Debate is game modest restrictions are necessary to preserve the competitive nature of the activity, predictable limits are key to maintain equitable dialogue and there with potential substantive trade-offs, limits facilitate through discussion and ensure that both sides have the ability to engage. Engagement is key to argument testing and contestation. Ideas is necessary to oppose each other's arguments and earn the correct solutions proves that in order to evaluate the truth claims of the applicant first have to be tested and inability to engage in this means you can't evaluate any cross application of the case to answer T because their validity is artificially inflated, which in turns all of your arguments are interpreted key to ensuring the discussion. The 1AC produces the productive and effective at deconstructing the state procedural fairness mitigates the impacts of substantive fairness and amount of asking the only tools that we will be able to sell stay competitive and debate are the ones with the most resources, which also discourages participation in the activity which promotes all the educational benefits from the act that turns all of your arguments, especially on accessibility. You know what is going to be benefiting from your model debate if there are no debaters to begin with. And on switch side, using the resolution as a point for discussion is key to reducing dogmatism and increasing deliberative pluralism by familiarizing yourself with arguments to the contrary of what we believe we can learn the best response to common objections and for our own defense of these positions. Switch side debate solves all of your options. Reading your opposite negative position still allows you to be a complete criticism of the state that advantages your defense. That your defense of the criticism is now strengthened. And on the topical version of the app, use efficiency for the value topical version of the app debater. RTVA solves for most of the education of the app. Any solves the deficit proof the app is contestable and is a contestable and controversial position. You could have defended an adventurism app. Yes, it still incorporates the same way, but switch side debate solves. You can be a complete criticism of the state on the neg, but defending a stable status point is a reason. It's key to control ability for both sides to engage and improve upon their positions. No RBIs. All of your arguments just collapse to accessibility. They're all about how debate is paternal, how our model of debate is paternal. However, you assume that we're prescribing what a good versus bad model of debate is. You're assuming that we're saying if the state is good. No, you can still be a criticism debate, but procedural fairness would still control the impact to substantive fairness and accessibility, allowing for if a number of apps is going to disadvantage small schools and more sensibility to bagel schools that can prep out every app. This is key to participation in the activity, which controls the internal education because it doesn't matter if your office educational creates a political stance if there's no one in the activity because all small schools have dropped out. This means that your interpretation is more paternal so that responds to all of your exclusion arguments. And you say all of your arguments about policymaking or why policymaking within the government our cross applications of the app which you can't evaluate, but also they all are assuming that we are saying that the government that we force the app to say that the government is good. However, this isn't the case. We say that you can still criticize the government. You can your argument is just an argument on why the government has failed in the past, not why us acting as policymakers would be bad discussion. Us acting as policymakers would be better for talking about the impacts of the app because it allows us to actually view what went wrong within the system. If we are just operating completely outside of the system, this means that there is no way to actually find a solution to the issues that the app talks about. All of your criticism, the entire app proves all of your critiques, all of your criticisms in the app are just criticism of the system and why the American government has been bad, but you don't offer any substantive way to solve it. You don't offer any substantive way to solve it. Don't let him stand up and say that there's just some sort of political implication of him reading the 1AC and that is the only solvency that he needs. No, there's no political implication of him reading the 1AC because he's literally just saying that racism is bad and I can't debate it so we can't and I can't debate that and so we can't actually have a good substantive discussion about why the specific instance of racism is bad and how we can actually solve that. Even if you win it, there's some sort of political implication of the 1AC outside of T. It's literally just a racism is bad, it still doesn't teach us how to act, which is still a reason that the app solvency fails. And you say that you're directionally topical. However, no, you can extend the definition of national service. You're definitely not directionally topical. You don't talk about any military action. Also you offer no proof that you were directionally topical. So this means that you should learn little credence. This can also be directionally topical. Doesn't solve for the impact. We still can't have a switch on debate if you would just talk about like national service is bad because it's racist. That doesn't. If you just say like national service is bad because it's racist. That still doesn't allow me to contest. That still doesn't allow me to contest the claims of the affirmative because there's no stasis point for the debate. And you say cross that. You say there's no topical version of the app. No, you should have a pretty low threshold in terms of topical version of the app because if there really is no topical version of the app, it proves that you're just saying some sort of you're just saying like dogmatism that I can never debate. Also, you should have a pretty low threshold for this. We've provided a topical version of the app that doesn't require that you say that the state is good. So you can still read all of the impacts. You can literally read an adventurism app that talks about why the state has been historically bad and mandatory national services. We do reject this. Also, you say the field is not the real world. However, field is not real world. However, this doesn't matter in the context of the ET debate. We still need to field to discuss the actual ways to solve the issue. And we need to challenge ideas that we have even there core beliefs of ours in order to rupture dogmas for the constituent future of the democratic process, being able to open the door to the other side. Certainly, it's very important to facilitate actions. We can't have meaningful conversational answers, substance constraints to push the debate allows it to develop and do something meaningful. This is not a form of exclusion. Encouraging argument testing is key. Meaningful debates about issues of social relevance. This means that if you had read a topical version of that, we would better be able to have this conversation. You would have a stronger political implication of the 1AC and the ability of each side to participate in a conversation that surrounds connectable. This is important to addressing social issues, being able to engage in dialogue about those things. Otherwise, one leader stops out in their favor, and the discussion is not meaningful without framework to preserve equitable dialogue. And there's nothing preventing you from getting up and saying racism is that. This isn't contestable.
4 minutes starting now. All right, good. Framework. With an overview, obviously. Let me know when y'all are ready. Good? Once you good? Alright. The tuner was 6 minutes of extending through it. She's conceded that we get to weigh our afterward. It recreates things like political apathy, and it's a question of a competing model of debate. How can I compare models if I don't get access to my model? She's also conceded several accessibility arguments and structural claims that, and all the offense coming out of the 1AC. She just says that we have no political implication, but without a warrant. But she doesn't actually warrant this claim, but we've weighed several arguments. One, the 1AC articulation was that a refusal to engage in things like the topic means that we are a rewriting of history, i.e. through the 1AC uniqueness evidence and a reclamation of our agency. She's also conceded the warrant that I can't just say the N-word and just hope to get off fully. Obviously, there are political implications behind how we view things like blackness whenever we say the N-word, which is a conceded warrant out of the tuner, which means that we do get to weigh our ass. It is a question of what we do in this space. None of their arguments matter because she has conceded that fiat is illusory and that the only argument she has is that it's key to rigorous testing. But we'll answer that on the line debate. We're going for the perpetual foreign dissent and the escapism that they said. The perpetual foreign dissent functionally conceded. The chain 16 evidence is pretty clear that we are always viewed as apolitical minorities that never have any stake in politics, which means that all these types of political discourse arguments, civic engagement, agonistic democracy, none of that is accessible to, and none of that is accessible to us because we are always viewed as apolitical, which is a conceded argument. You can extend the framing argument that I made in the 1 year that if we win an accessibility claim, you should just vote app on presumption because none of their politics or offense is accessible to us. You concede the escapism dissent, which was an impact turn to the limits argument, which is the only procedural fairness argument she goes for. We say that unpredictability is good. It forces us you to engage with our deviant modes of engagement in order to understand how these types of politics are engaging instead of just reading things like extinction outweighs, which answers back all of your switch side debates arguments because all of your arguments are fundamentally the same. You'll just read a policy app and say hey, extinction outweighs when fiat is illusory. None of those arguments or impacts actually happen in the real world, which means there's no impact to this argument. There's no impact to this argument. The topical version of the app, she reads sufficiency framing but doesn't answer why her topical version of the app is sufficient. She just says that there's a solvency. If there's a solvency deficit to the topical version of the app, that it's a key point of analysis. But she's conceded several arguments about how the military itself becomes the site of where politics is supposed to be pertaining. It doesn't matter if we can critique the state if the state just makes us disposable and kills us off whenever we want, whenever they want to, which means that there's no topical version. You can see that we are also apolitical, which we are also used apolitical minorities, which means that their topical version is not accessible to us. She's not contextualized why we get access to any of our framing or our method in the topical version, which means you should hold this to a very high bar because she doesn't do any analysis on this, which means you vote affirmative on presumption. She makes this no RBI's argument, but it's not a question of an RBI, but rather whether or not your scholarship is good. If we win that your scholarship is bad, it just excludes our type of epistemology. That's just a reason for you to vote affirmative. That's just a reason for you to vote affirmative. She reads a small school dissent in the death of debate. One, obviously debate has not died, and topical version of the F have been out for years or decades. But second is this argument is also laughable considering I'm a small school debater as well, and obviously I'm not excluded from debate. I'm not excluded from debate because of these arguments. Yeah.
Thank you for judging.
The door was locked to the
Oh.
other side of the.
Do you need to go badly?
No, I'll live.
Okay, I guess I can announce congratulations to both teams. On 2-1, it's a decision for the affirmative. Okay. So I sat, so I guess I'll go first. I think that the negative is ahead on first that it's a question of procedural fairness before structural fairness, and I think that I find like that there needs to be a stasis point for debate before like accessibility, kind of like the question of accessibility can come first, and that to the prior question to the rule of ballot. And I think that the negative is doing a decent amount of work on like why I shouldn't necessarily give you access to like the offense from the affirmative before like the question of T. And I think that so a couple things on the line by line. I think I'm not super sure like this escapism argument. I guess for me like it wasn't impacted out enough. And I just have that like unpredictability is good in order to understand how to engage in politics, but I don't know really what that means, or like what that looks like, I guess, or why that's good. I think that also this Piata's illusory stuff is not conceded. I think that she's making arguments about why like even if it's not real, like acting as a policymaker is good, and I don't think that those are necessarily responded to with your like accessibility first arguments. I think that there's still like a question of whether or not there is like a stable stasis point to defend. I think on the topical version of the app, like I think she's saying like I think the sufficiency framing kind of argument makes sense to me, because she's saying that even if like you can say that the state is bad and still say like we don't have access to like politics or whatever, and you don't have to defend that the state is good, just that like there's a way to talk about the state or like create change through like the heuristic of the state, and that anything that is like not solved by the topical version of the app is like ground that should be debated and is negative ground that should be given to the negative, not something that the app should just like make a overarching claim about, and that the neg should have access to that ground.
Sure. So like, this was a difficult debate to resolve for many reasons, but I think part of it was, I think the 2NR, like the top part of the 2NR was really good in the sort of extension of all of this, like all of the stuff that like generic framework needs, like fairness comes first and testing and stuff like that. But I think the part that trips me up and like gives me a difficult time is sort of the 2NR's like basic concession of a lot of the more specific arguments that the app has. Like specifically these like the foreigner dissent, the escapism dissent argument. And I think it sort of forces me to consider a broader question that maybe like some limits are like good, but it's a question of whether or not your limits are good. And I don't think you have a particularly good warrant for like why your limits are good when you dropped like some of the app arguments that are like your limits are bad because they force us into a type of civic engagement that is inaccessible to Asian bodies, and that sort of more unlimited topics are better because it forces a specific type of engagement with the type of arguments that the affirmative is reading. And I don't think these arguments are super well warranted or impacted out, but I don't really hear a defense in the 2NR that specifically answers these arguments beyond just like a generic extension of limits are good, but like not an extension of like why the limits that you have set up are particularly good, given the accessibility question that the app has posed. And the only other argument I have sort of about this accessibility question is just like, well, small schools and other people can't participate, which I guess has some relevance, but I don't really know how that answers the question of like, when they get into debate, can they sort of engage in this sort of position in the first place because of the way that you've structured politics turns out, because it views the Asian as always foreign anyways. So I don't really know how to sort of compare those arguments. So I think if the 2NR just pushes a little bit harder into sort of these accessibility claims and a defense of why your limits are good, or even just like impacting out the topical version of the app a little bit more, then I'm inclined to think that you sort of have all the components for winning 2NR. But I just think that when the 2NR is fairly competitive near the end and doesn't really advance more direct interaction between the app disads to framework and your sort of defensive framework, then it's like hard to vote negative. But at the same time, it was also kind of hard to vote AF because like the 2AR was kind of messy and like there were parts of it that I don't think were super great. So for one thing is like I think you need some pushback into procedural fairness, like a little bit. Like if you're going for an impact turn but not impact defense, it like makes it a little bit harder to vote for you. And like if the negative had pushed more into like not just limits are good in general and engagement is good in general, but like you have no role for the negative within debate, then that seems to be persuasive to me because you have like no defense of like any limits whatsoever. Because you don't even extend the argument that you're in the direction of topic in the 2AR.
Do you think like the extending like the reasonability stuff not as like a reason I'm reasonable but right, like we are tangentially like related to the topic would have been the argument?
Yeah, maybe I guess. Yeah, like I think you like need to offer at some point in this debate like what the role of the negative is, like what can they do to negate your AF other than reading the hedge K or the hedge good K and framework and stuff like that. But it's just at the same time, like I just don't think that the negative has sort of forwarded that sort of part of the limits debate. It's just like what is the role for the negative? Because the only impact I sort of have is like it is difficult to contest truthy type 1 ACs, but if your argument for that is just limits and the app is sort of impact turn that model of limits, then it's hard to vote that. Yeah.
I agree with a lot of that analysis. To add a couple more nuances, I'm granting the app a lot of weight on these arguments because I really don't have specific responses out of the 2NR. For a lot of the nuanced ways that he's applying the AC, so I'm giving him, I'm granting him a lot of weight to be able to weigh kind of these impacts of the 1AC against your procedural fairness arguments. So I think he's winning the escapism disad, so that means that all of your impacts that kind of go through this stasis point are mitigated, because that impact turns that. So I think a lot of your offense coming off of that is mitigated. And I also think he's winning the accessibility turn, so I weigh that against your small schools. I don't know. I came into a weird kind of trying to weigh small schools against this accessibility argument, and I just think that the accessibility argument is more fleshed out. I also think the app is ahead on the case impacts being a disad to the topical version of the app. Sorry. So the case being a disad to the topical version of the app. So I'm weighing this on the 1AC as a disad to your framework interpretation. So I kind of weigh that against your affirmative can still critique the government argument, because I think he's doing a pretty good job of explaining why uniquely that's not true in the case of the topical app.
I feel like I had some other things to say, but I'm literally so tired. So if you have questions, that's better.
You should probably, I'm exhausted. You should probably email or chat later.
I guess for you, Sri,
Yeah.
I guess like the procedural fairness arguments, do you think like, I guess, what like impact framing would you have looked for on this like, I guess this like escapism disad impact term? Because like obviously the fairness arguments operate on like a different plane.
Yeah.
So how do you think like that interaction should have been done?
I mean, I think it's like what kind of like how Lawrence characterized it made sense. I don't know. I think that there just like needs to be an explanation of like I need to like how to articulate it. I guess for me, at least, like, there needs to be a discussion of what that means for like the limits debate, and then also like I think it needs to be impacted out in the context of like also what it means, like why your accessibility claims, like how it interact with like the question of like the stasis point of debate and stuff like that. I can like probably like type out a better response.